What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to AttractionsCast, the Attractions Podcast. My name is Josh Quillin. We have a crazy setup right now, and I really hope it works. I have 4 devices currently set up on my desk, all running different live streams to 3 different platforms, plus recording this for the actual podcast. So, dear God, I hope this works. Please, Lord, make this work. Joining me today, you know him, you love him. He's everyone's favorite guy, Mr. Pete Carney. Say hello, Pete.
Wow, hello. I thought that was Len's introduction. Thank you.
Oh, that's for you.
I knew you.
It is an honor and a pleasure to join you again, sir.
Well, thank you. Now, the guy that everybody actually likes and the guy that everyone's actually here for. We're joined by Mr. Len Testa from Touring Plans from the original WDW Today podcast. How you doing, Len?
Good. How's it going, Josh?
It's going great. How's it been? You're in New York right now? It looks like there's a skyscraper behind you.
In New York for a little bit, and then heading to Florida soon.
All right. Well, get out of New York quickly. Escape from New York. Cool. Let's jump into the room here and let's get started with today's live stream. Here we go. Here's everybody, all in our little boxes. I redid all of this today. I spent hours and hours redoing these graphics. Thank you. And making live stream graphics with the time and everything. Len, you are so pretty. You are so pretty. So today I wanted to go over Disney parks kind of in general and just talk about reopening, what's going to happen after they reopen, potential guidelines, potential things we have to look out for, especially now that we've seen Universal City Walk open. Disney Springs opens in 2 days. For those who are listening to this later, this is Monday, May 18th. Disney Springs opens on Wednesday, May 20th. And then a whole bunch of other stuff opens the 27th. Is that what it is when all the Disney stores open?
Week later, Wednesday and Wednesday. So I wanted to go through and just kind of have everyone throw out maybe their best guesses, because we really don't have a ton of factual information. Like, Disney hasn't said anything about when stuff's reopening, so it's kind of just us guessing. So Len, from everything that you know, because apparently you know everything, if you guys don't listen to the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill that Len is also on and runs and is amazing, you guys need to, because all of the information is revealed. Everything, all the knowledge is on that podcast. So if you're into the Disney parks, theme parks in general, just listen to the podcast. Check it out. And you should subscribe on Bandcamp. I do. It's $3. Do it. It's great.
Thank you.
Speaking of, I have a bone to pick. So at the beginning of every Disney Dish, Len picks a couple of longtime listeners and uses their names in like a funny way, of which I was going to try to do with Len on this podcast right now and decided I can't because I'm not that skilled. I've been Bandcamping, subscribed to that podcast for probably since the moment it started. My name has never been called. This is a desperate plea.
I missed you.
You missed me.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't as organized back when we first started. So I may have missed you. But if you re-up, I mean, you give me more money.
I was like, it comes out every month.
When did you subscribe? What day? Do you remember?
What day? Shoot. This was before the documentary came out, so it's at least 3 years ago, maybe 4.
Let's see if I can
6 year.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Unneeded to actually figure out. By the way, I'm just giving you a hard time.
On his computer, he can look it up in 6 seconds. So you're in big trouble.
It'll take me a second to figure it
out. So if you guys are listening on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook Live right now, send us your questions. Anything you guys might want to know, type it in, and we'll sporadically get to them as we have time during the show. And if you're on Instagram, I apologize. We still haven't figured out how to get that to go longer than an hour. So it's just going to shut off after an hour. I apologize. You'll have to go to YouTube or Facebook. So unfortunately, that's the way it goes. This is the longest 6 seconds ever.
I can't find it. What email address did you use?
I don't know. I'll message you after. It's fine. It's
I don't see Josh Q anywhere.
Oh, well, I'm there. Unless I put in some
weird company name.
Unless somebody's maybe my $3 is no, because I have access to the Bandcamp stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out.
It's probably me. Let's face it.
Who knows? All right. So park reopenings. Like I said, we've seen Shanghai reopen. We're seeing Disney Springs reopen. City Walk just reopened. Any guesses when we might see Walt Disney World reopen? Anybody?
I'm pretty sure we're going to get short notice. I mean, they told us about Shanghai Disney a week before. They gave us only 2 weeks, almost to the day, for Disney Springs opening on the 20th. And then a week later, again, almost to a day, they told us their stores will be opening a week later. So it's going to be, they've proven they only need 1 to 2 weeks to be like, hey, come back. I think it's smart on their behalf. They don't want a lot of people rushing back. They prefer just a few sprinkle in that are in town. It's going to be just locals for the most part. I don't know. I was a hopeful for the beginning of June that I thought, all right, the 20th, then the 27th, maybe they'll wait another week or two. But now looking at the calendar, it'd probably just be smarter for them to hold off past the 4th of July weekend. They can't do pyro anyway. What's the 4th of July without fireworks? So
that was my
why not hold off for the weekend and maybe come back after the 4th of July weekend? And that's my prediction. I don't know. Who knows? I've been wrong 3 times.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I was thinking too.
I did nail the Disney Springs opening date.
You did.
It a month out.
You straight up predicted it.
That was
like
my
perfectly.
Nostradamus moment. But yeah, who knows?
That was my thinking too. And it's kind of been backed up now that the Florida governor released that Disney or the theme parks have to create a plan and submit it to the Florida state government, but they also have to submit it to the local government, so it has to be approved on both ends with what they're going to do. Those plans have to be approved. It's got to go through all this red tape potentially, so I don't see it happening in the next few weeks. My guess is...
Well, on Wednesday, we find out from Mike Pence what it takes to reopen theme parks, too. Apparently, he's specifically addressing...
The vice president's going to get in on theme park reopening?
He's going to Orlando, right?
Yeah, he's weighing in on Wednesday, yeah. So we'll find out what they...
Is he going to be at Disney Springs? Is he going to go have lunch at Wine Bar George or something?
I don't know. I think it's going to be me, him, and George just hanging out.
Perfect. Len, you got any thoughts about park reopenings?
I think we'll know at least a couple weeks in advance because of the sheer number of cast members that they're going to have to bring back to run these things. So when we start hearing about maintenance crews going back to spin up the attractions, when we hear about restaurants being restocked and things like that, when we hear about housekeeping going back to the resorts to make sure all of that is ready to open, we'll probably have a couple weeks notice on that, maybe a little bit more for the parks. I think I said this on the Disney Dish podcast. I've got a reservation for July 4th at Wilderness Lodge.
Okay.
I'm thinking first 2 weeks of July.
Yeah, that's my thought too. My thought about 4th of July not reopening was that Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer has decided to cancel the Lake Eola fireworks thing. So I'm kind of I wonder if that's him trying to go, hey, look, this is what we want you guys to do, is to not have a big fireworks display, not have anything open during fireworks, because everyone will descend on the parks. So that's why I was thinking
it's probably a couple $1 million in fireworks too. I mean, save the money.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and Shanghai, when they reopened, they're not doing fireworks. So I'm guessing World's probably going to follow suit. Is they're not going to have parades, they're not going to have fireworks, they're not going to have all that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe. That's fine. Right. All right. So that's about all I want to get into for reopening stuff, because we have no knowledge of it. It's all guesses. There's no facts to base anything on. However, I did see an article. I was trying to find it just a second ago. I saw an article today on Mice Chat that they had helicopter shots of horticulture crew at Disneyland currently working. So they were like, are they getting ready? Are we coming back?
Disneyland.
Disneyland's
not opening forever.
No, it's not.
And I have to be Disney World.
I texted a cast member friend who's on the maintenance staff, and they were like, yeah, no, we're still not back at work. They're like, it's not happening. So anybody look at that article.
Security will go back. Yeah, the maintenance people will go back. But you think about what they have to do to get restaurants and merch up and running, right?
Oh,
they've got to start bringing in food. They've got to re-clean all the kitchens. And think about the supply chains that they've got to get up and running for all of those things.
Well, they gave away all their food. So what are they going to do? They got to reorder everything.
They've got to restock everything.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be. I think we're going to know probably 30 days at least out. We'll start.
I would think at least 2 weeks, probably more. Have they said how shopping is going to work in the stores? Because I'm going to
assume it's be on a counter, somebody at the door around 20, so that it was 25% capacity. So if they say, all right, this could fit 100 people, we'll have 25 people in the store. Wait here. Because that's how I live in Orlando. Other places have been the outlets that are reopened. They count people in the store, and then you wait in line outside the store, socially distant 6 feet.
Well, and that's how Universal's doing it.
Let's say that makes sense. Okay, so I go into the Emporium, I pick up a Mickey plush, I sneeze on it, I put it back.
Well, at Shanghai,
the
in that
system's
video
broken.
Shanghai put out, they said something like, if you touch the item,
You touch it, you buy it.
You
Okay,
buy
so
it.
it's like at Whole Foods when I pick up a tomato, I
Yeah.
bought the tomato. at
yeah,
that
it's
point,
yours.
right?
It's
Okay,
like
all right.
they're gonna have Disney
That makes
security.
sense.
You know,
Yeah.
you touched it, buy it. But yeah,
Yeah.
they'll probably do the same thing at City Walk. When it reopened, I went and filmed a walk around and went into the Universal store, and it was just they had stickers on the ground outside the store every 6 feet, basically like stand here, and then they had a guy counting in and a guy counting out, and they were letting in that store. I think it was 52 people. Is what I saw.
Well, they say the same
Alright.
thing. This is all for nothing because I mean, think about supermarkets. They're all open. We all go. People are picking up and putting down stuff all day long, like all day, and we walk in at least once a week and buy our groceries. So I mean, this is going above and beyond. Let's hope it works.
You think people
Professor.
like in Orlando, people are picking up the groceries and putting them back? Because in New York, you'd get shot.
Oh, it's very laid back. I want to say I went this week. There was only about 25% of people wearing masks. Masks have been just people don't care about masks anymore either.
Yeah, I was at
Just in
Publix earlier
Publix,
today,
yeah.
and it was the same thing. Yeah.
This is why I went to. I think I've told Josh this story, but the reason so I have a house I have a condo in Celebration, and I have a apartment in New York, and the reason why I went to New York, even though it was so many more cases, is I was in Publix in the parking lot in Celebration, and I realized that the people that can't put shopping carts back in the Publix parking lot, like they just leave them next to your car, those are the people that I was going to rely on for social distancing and wearing masks and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
I
take my
posted
chances.
on Instagram the moment Pete and I got back from City Walk when we went as a story. I noticed when I was walking around. If you watch the video that we posted, you can see it because it's just a straight uncut hour walk around the park or the City Walk area. There's a lot of people. You're supposed to wear masks. You're required to wear masks full time while you're there, except when you're eating. There were a number of people who had the mask off. They'd get to a part where there was no security, people couldn't see them, they'd take it off, or they had it just over their mouth and their noses were exposed. And I posted on Instagram, I was like, how are the parks going to enforce if, a third of your attendants, your guests are like, we're not wearing masks, and they just take them off? I was really curious about how that's going to work, once
Security
everything
will be
reopens.
trained for that, I think.
Yeah, security will be trained for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you think? I told Pete
have
the
to
moment we
be.
saw Springs reopen, I was like, I give it 2 hours before the cops are called. Because somebody doesn't want to put a mask on or
It's already
refuses to
starting.
leave.
You look at some of these Disney Facebook chat groups where moms are like, "Oh, well, what if my son has asthma? He can't wear a mask. I already have plans to come to the." It's going to be, but I think they're going to address it. I mean, Disney has made big changes in the past. There's the day they changed the smoking policy. You can't come in and smoke inside the park. You hope most people will be upset. You kind of have to deal with it. Sorry, this is the new way it is. Go over there, and then you have the 10-15% that just sneak in and do it anyway, which will be the people who pull down their face mask or talk on a phone. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be that adjustment period.
100%. So real quick, off topic, there's a question on YouTube for Len. Let me bring the mic closer here. It says, not COVID related. Surprise, surprise. There we go. What do we got? It says, if you were to take the bus stops at all 4 parks, what hotel averages the shortest walk to the gate? Is there some sort of formula to how they plot the stops?
Wow.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. It's a great question too. I've never been asked this one.
Ooh.
I think, I'm 99% sure, the more you pay for your hotel, the shorter your walk to the bus station. So I know, for example, at Epcot, the deluxe resorts are generally closer than the values in terms of bus stops and proximity to the park entrance. And I think it's true for the Magic Kingdom as well.
I was about to say it's definitely true for the Magic Kingdom resorts. Because we just stayed at the Poly and it was like
some of the. I know the deluxes are closer. I don't know if all of the moderates are closer than all of the values. I'd have to go back and look at that. But yeah, generally it's the more you pay, the shorter your walk.
All right, and so after the parks are open, we're going to see Len with one of those wheelie measure things you see at the football field,
Oh,
going
totally thinking about it now. Yeah,
measuring from
that's
every
a great
motor
question.
at a
Actually,
resort.
yeah,
Yeah, that was from Nemo with glasses on YouTube. So thank you for the question.
fantastic.
All right, so let's move into. We've been talking about. Pete was mentioning that there's a lot of people complaining about how their kids can't go, and I saw a bunch of that type of stuff on Facebook and Instagram of just moms very upset that it's like, well, I have my annual pass, and we could go, but my kid can't go because my child can't wear the mask, and they're required to, and they're of the age where they have to. So they're like, what do you do? So that's a question, Len. What do you think Disney's going to do? Are they just going to go, oh well, that's the policy, or what do you think they might? Or do you think they're going to try and make it better? You know what I mean? Because they're obviously all about making things work.
I think the policy will be the policy.
You think so?
And I'd be surprised if they start making exceptions like that, especially early on. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to. They're going to deviate from saying the masks are required if that's the policy that they want.
True.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think they might just go, okay, well, we'll give you, how many days were you going to come? Here's some tickets to come for when your pass expires or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, they'll do make goods on all that stuff, but I don't think they're going to let people walk around the parks who are supposed to be wearing masks without masks. And the reason is, like,
right.
to your point, even if a third of the people don't want to wear masks, 2/3 do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't make the 2/3 unhappy for the 1/3, especially if it's the 1/3 not following your policy. And so I think going back to, all the things that they're going to prepare for when the parks reopen, one of them is going to be training security guards on how to deal with exactly that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And they started, I was seeing posts from cast members that they started training cast members, it was like a week and a half or 2 weeks before Springs opened. I was seeing some secret photos that cast members shouldn't have been taking, like the top of their forehead in the Lego store way in the background, like, look where I am.
Well, I mean, Shanghai is actually a really good example of the training that they're going to go through. So you'll see the squares, stand here, distancing squares. You'll see those coming in and being put down.
Do you think we're going to get pretty much the same system minus the government-controlled health app?
I think so. I don't know whether we're going to see temperature scanning. Did you guys get the IAPA newsletter on
No.
park
When did
reopening?
that come out?
So it's an international amusement.
Yeah, no, we should have gotten it.
Yeah.
Both Pete and I were there last year.
Yeah. So the one of the things that they said was really interesting. If I recall correctly, they said not to do temperature screenings in outdoor amusement parks, and the reason was it wasn't reliable enough.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's
They were
City
doing
Walk.
it at City Walk this past week.
I was gonna say, when we went to City Walk, it was you lined up. They had 3 corrals, with the metal like cow corral things that I call them. Like when Horror Nights happens, there's just a field of them. They had those lined up, and you would just wait 6 feet and one at a time go up, and the guy would just scan your head with the meat.
To be fair,
infrared
they
meat
did have a
thermometer, and
screener
you walk
still
away.
in the garage in the shade, so it wasn't like you were in direct
True.
sunlight
Yeah,
when
that's
you were
true.
being scanned.
Yeah. Well, and Shanghai has the covering, at least according to the video. I don't know how reliable the video out of China is, but
That's the point that IAPA had made, is that there are so many variables when you're scanning outside. Humidity, heat, how far
Sure.
you walked, how long you've been waiting, right?
Now, this brings up a point you had on your podcast, Len. So in one of the recent Disney Dish podcasts, you guys had talked about, I think Guy, I haven't seen him forever. Guy had mentioned, you had him look at a map of Magic Kingdom and say, like, where do you think they would line people up? And he was thinking, oh, maybe they would just not use the bus drop-offs and basically use it as like a corral system and scanning area. Correct?
Yeah, this was our big question. Like, if you're gonna start scanning people before they get into the park, where do you put those lines?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good question.
And that operates with a couple of assumptions. One assumption is that you're gonna let 10,000 people try and enter the park at park opening. And I think what we've seen regional parks do is staggered entrances.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you get a fast pass to enter the park. And Disney could do that too. I don't think they did it in Shanghai though.
No, I don't think so. It was just the reservation system.
Right. So you don't want 50,000 people to try and get to the Magic Kingdom at 9 a.m. because that would be a
awful.
logistical nightmare. And so what we had said was, suppose we have like 5,000 people who are trying to get in the Magic Kingdom at once, who need to be security scanned. Where do you put them? And so one idea is you shut down the parking lot of Bay Lake Tower and you put the bus depot there and just do all the buses that are going to the Magic Kingdom as close to the Magic Kingdom as you could in the Bay Lake Tower parking lot. And you use the Magic Kingdom bus routes for lines to get people in. So basically take out that space. And that way you allow 6 feet between guests, between guest parties. And you have enough room to handle several thousand people. Because if you look at the Magic Kingdom itself, there's not a whole lot of space before you get to the tap styles. Especially if you wanted to...
I was thinking, why not do what they do for the monorail and do the security at the hotels? I mean, at the hotels. Plus, if you get on a bus, a crowded bus with families, you go there, they go, oh, you have 103 fever. Now I'm on the bus with this guy. I see him get turned down.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm like, what the heck? So if you're doing it from the resorts or at the TTC, at least you're getting the problem before it gets there.
I didn't even think about that. Where you're on a bus and you're like, wait, he's got it. Oh crap.
You should totally do it before they get on the bus, before they get on any transportation issue. The problem is you can get to the Magic Kingdom through public streets.
It's true.
So you still have to park somewhere, whether it's at the Contemporary.
No, you could get Uber dropped off right at that corner by that stoplight without having to go into the hotel at all.
That's true.
Now they could stop that, right? They could.
But you still have to go through where you do security. So like where they do that bag check on that little walkway.
Oh yeah,
they could do it there.
Yeah, they could do it there. Exactly. Yeah,
oh, okay.
They could.
So what I'm saying is anywhere they do security, that would be it. But with the resorts that don't have the security checks, I mean, like the Monorail Loop already does, is set up a security check out there with the temperature scan.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so as long as there's a closed loop, I think they'd be set there.
Yeah. Now this is all just Magic Kingdom, so the other parks are much easier because like Epcot, it's a parking lot with the International Gateway.
So that assumes then that they're not going to open the Grand Floridian walkway.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Is that going to be open and ready?
No, probably not. No.
I didn't think so either.
That's going to be pushed back anyway, and why that just creates more loop.
It's just another access point.
Hey, let's add more roads. This will be good.
Let's add more help. Yeah.
So I think at Epcot, it's again closed loop. You can screen everybody before they get in.
The easiest park is probably Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom is the easiest because it's remote. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but that brings me to another question. So transportation, do you think the transportation is going to be open? Because I was thinking about like, how do you clean the monorail? How do you clean Skyliners? How do you clean buses and disinfect them, but then keep them running with any form of efficiency during the day?
I think so what are the alternatives, right? The alternatives are don't run them, and then everyone drives.
Yeah. Which, if it's mostly locals, that makes sense. But if all the hotels are open as well, that becomes very problematic.
Then what? Yeah, I mean, do you have to rent a car then, or you take it's one way to sell minivan trips, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. We're giving you a 10% discount on all minivan trips.
Yeah, we raised the price 3x, and now it's 50% off. I don't know that would be that driving would be the best thing. I think they'll still run the buses and the monorails. They may ride them at like half capacity.
Sure.
But
and just there's like a cast member there with rags just nonstop.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. And I think the other thing too is if they're running the parks at 20 or 30% of capacity, there aren't going to be that many people that are coming in.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, and you had mentioned something on Disney Dish. I went through full whatever openness, full transparency. So I because the gyms are closed, right? Normally I listen to Disney Dish. I'll go to the gym, I'll get on the treadmill, and I'll put on the podcast, right? Well, the gyms are closed. I've been working out at home, so I've been listening to the podcast, and I was like, oh crap, we're having Len on, and so I just like speed listened to every episode I'd missed over the last like 2 days, so that's all really fresh in my mind.
Wow, that's great.
So the history of Mr. Toad was really crazy, by the way.
Right?
It was insane. Anyway, go listen to his podcast, Disney Dish, with Jim Hill. It's amazing. So what was I going to say? I totally just lost I just threw
on the
myself
transportation thing. So if there only be 20 or 30% of the park's capacity coming to the park.
Oh.
If they can pretty much space everybody out.
Yes, and you had also said that there was you guys were thinking maybe that they would do some form of like either you come in the morning or you come in at night. Like so you've got 6 hours and you've got 6 hours. Which block do you want? And then they have a period in the middle where they're closed, clean, and reopen.
I think a listener actually suggested this, and it's not a bad idea for a couple of reasons. One, you could get twice as many people in the park for half as long. Right. So you spread out the density.
Then you would have to sell cheaper half-price day tickets.
Would you?
Well, I mean, how many people are there? My big question is how many people are going to be booking trips? How many people are going to be buying one-day tickets anyway? Is it going to be mostly?
Not many people buy one-day tickets.
No, I don't think it's going to be that.
That's what I mean. I think it's going to be mostly annual pass holders and vloggers. That's it. Those are the two people.
Vloggers.
That's the only people who are going to be in the park. So I don't know. I don't know how much they're gonna have to worry about having angry single day ticket buyers. You know what I mean? So it might be like a Galaxy's Edge opening day situation, or like Rise of the Resistance. Get in, you've got your 8 a.m. time slot, and it's from X to X, and you're wearing X wristband.
The other thing that they could do is they could rotate which resorts get access to which parks.
Oh, that's.
I think they're only going to open certain resorts too. Is that they don't want people rushing back, so it's going to be like maybe you get one. There might be 2 value, 2 moderate, and 1. What whatchamacallit?
Deluxe.
Like resort
Deluxe.
only to choose from. Yeah, deluxe. Thank you.
Well, so there are a couple of problems with that. One, and DVC is only like 3,800 rooms or so, 3,700 rooms.
It's pretty low.
Something like that. But the longer that they delay DVC, the bigger the backlog they have of DVC points that need to be spent.
I think then they can reopen DVC, I think, faster based on need as well. Like, if I don't think you're going to see everyone rushing to spend points.
100% believe that the day that it opens, every DVC room will be allocated. So we did a survey, actually. We did a survey of our users. So we surveyed, we had about 17,000 users on the site who had trips planned between the middle of March and June 1.
Okay.
And of those, so we emailed all 17,000 people and we said, when are you going back? Right. And we asked them what month they were going back, and then if it was next year, what year and then what month. And of those, 80% that said that they had either already rebooked their trip or were planning to rebook. So 80% of the people
I think they're going to rebook, but I don't think a lot of those people too. And I mean, personally, more than DVC people I know is like your older crowd. They can afford that. So like these are not people I think rushing to get back to the parks. These are
okay. So half of them were going to go before the end of the year, and so half of the people who had booked their trips were going to go in June through December, and then there was a big drop off in January. But then like spring break next year, basically everyone who's going to go during spring break this year is going during.
So you're saying it had very little effect. Okay.
Yeah. So 80% are going to come back. All right, so the DVC thing, I mean, DVCs normally run at 95% occupancy.
Yeah, they do. Whenever I try to book, I can't get anything.
Yeah, and so one of the problems that they're having is they've basically lost a quarter of the year in terms of capacity. So now you've got 25% more points floating around, trying to
fill those slots. Yeah,
to fill those slots.
A lot of bungalows are about to be rented.
I did the calculation. So there's basically 5% occupancy every day. The rooms that could be filled, and now you've got 6 or 7% of the points chasing that 5% of occupancy.
Interesting. So what you're saying is I should just push my points for next year into 2022 or sell off my 1 year at the Poly. Cool, got it.
Yeah. So there's going to be a backlog. So that right there is probably 3,500 rooms a night right there.
Yeah,
right there.
So maybe really got to have Reflections open up soon.
Well, plus, Pete,
it's like 12% of Disney's resort. So that's 12% right there. Yeah. So, if they're going to limit the parks to 20%, they could do something. And this is my personal thing. I think we would all be okay if Disney said the only way you can get into a park is if you book a hotel room.
Yeah.
I think we would all be okay with that in the short term because.
I think so too.
One, they need the money, right? They need the revenue. Two, you can do things like contact tracing, right? You know who everybody was who came into the park because they came from a resort and they had to give you ID to check in.
Yeah, it's really smart. I actually have friends. This will be a nice segue into this. So some of my friends actually had a reservation for June 15th, and a week or two ago, we've been talking back and forth about when we think stuff's going to reopen, and basically we're like, dude, it's not reopening. You're not going. And so they 2 weeks ago, I think they canceled their trip, rebooked their trip for June. He actually put it in here for July 13th. Got every restaurant they wanted, full dining plan, everything that they wanted. So now they're going July 13th, and I don't know what hotel they booked. I know he's listening, so maybe he'll reply in here. But this brings me to my annual pass issue that they encountered, which I thought was really interesting. So their annual passes expired in April.
Oh, and the computer system hasn't been updated to
and the computer system hasn't been updated. So when they called, they were told, no, you have to buy brand new annual passes in order to book anything, like fast passes and that sort of thing. And so they bought brand new annual passes, and then Disney told them, when you get here, go to the front desk and we'll refund you the chunk of money that you should be getting back
for the prorated.
Give us your stimulus check. We need the money, and then we'll give it back to you when you finally show up.
Yes. Exactly.
Which I was kind of like, huh. I mean, I from a computer system standpoint, I'm like, well, I figured that's how you'd have to do it. I couldn't think of a better way, because unless you monthly started updating everybody's annual passes, we're like, oh, a month went by
because people are furloughed. I mean, who's going to do the programming, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
There's that other theory too that they are using that money. I mean, they are only canceling rooms at very short term notice.
Oh yeah,
like they just canceled the first
they're
week.
definitely
of June.
playing the float. Yeah, without
sure.
a doubt.
Well, their June 15th trip, I believe, still hasn't been canceled. And they
it's only the first week right now. First week of June.
No, I think it went through June 14th. I think.
Oh, okay.
Let me just say, I had a reservation for AMC, and if I don't get that money back, there's gonna be hell to pay.
Yeah, your monthly AMC movie pass is going to waste right now, buddy.
Oh, fired up.
And if that thing ever actually reopens, who knows? Who knows?
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. We'll see if it does. Real quick, so there's a couple questions in on YouTube. So Paul Berry from A Window of the Magic was asking, if they limit the parks to 30% capacity, are they also going to limit the hotels to 30% capacity? And then I have a side thing to that question is if they do that, if they say, okay, hotels can only be X capacity across the board because we know we can only let a certain amount of people into the parks, are they then going to pick and choose which like cancellations? Or is it going to be a lottery system? Is it the people who booked first get to keep their rooms, so on and so forth?
I think what they would do, this is just me talking, people who are staying at Disney hotels would be able to get into the parks before day guests. So if you think about it, Disney has like what, 35,000, 36,000 hotel rooms?
You tell me.
Maybe three people. Yeah, 3 people per hotel room. That's 100,000 people.
Jeez, good Lord.
Okay. So let's say 20,000 go to the Magic Kingdom. Maybe if it 25, 30,000 in Epcot, because it's spaced out. Maybe 15,000.
No one's going to Epcot.
I know, yeah. 15,000, 15,000, maybe 10, 15,000 at the studios, 10 or 15,000 at Animal Kingdom. So that's what, 30, 60, 80,000 people?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've totally got space.
Yeah.
They're gonna need a water park, I guess.
Yeah, and you do water parks. And not everyone's going to every park every day, and they're not all going at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my sense is that they could probably run the hotels as normal and be pretty close to the numbers they want at the parks, assuming a decent distribution. Obviously, more people generally want to go to the Magic Kingdom than the other parks. But
if you
again, they could tell people like, you can go to any park today but the Magic Kingdom, based on your hotel, and they can rotate that. And
that's what I was going to say. Yeah. If they basically just go, pop in Art of Animation.
But I think just like extra Magic Hours. I mean, we've all gotten used to the fact that Disney resort guests get preferential treatment.
Yeah.
And so maybe the preferential treatment is guaranteed admission or first shot at admission for park capacity.
Sure. Do you think that there would be an annual pass holder uproar of those who aren't having rooms? Like, hey, are you going to extend my pass if I haven't booked a room for those extra time?
I think they'll, yeah. So it's a good question. I think they will, only because it's going to be so difficult to figure out how annual pass holders are compensated. So what they're doing in Shanghai, right, is if you can't get a reservation for 30 days, in any 30-day period, you can't get a reservation, they credit you for the month. Yeah. But if you get a reservation, then they assume that you're going to use the annual pass and they bill you. I think you'll see the same thing here, right?
Interesting. Okay.
That's probably what they can do, right? It seems like they're making an effort there to make sure that if you can't use the annual pass, you get credit for the month. That makes sense.
I have a follow up to that too. Is obviously another way to get into the park is parties. Will we see Halloween parties at the Magic Kingdom, or will we see Halloween Horror Nights at Universal? What's your take?
Ooh, I have a Horror Nights thing, which we'll save for a second.
Yeah, because that is a big debate I've had with friends as well. Is will we see them, and how will they be? Because a big seller is the parades and fireworks, and if you can't do that,
well, but a limited party crowd, what
makes a Halloween party? The parades and fireworks. You can't do parades and fireworks though.
Yeah, in the candy, people aren't going to be giving out
candy
or sticking their hands into barrels.
Yeah. So what makes the Halloween party special?
They could give you prepackaged bags of candy, which I'd be fine with.
But are people still paying $109 for a prepackaged bag, and you can't do character meet and greets, you can't do fireworks, and you can't do a parade?
People will still do it.
Fog machines. People love those fog machines. Green lights and fog machines, man.
People will do it.
They sell tickets.
I have no doubt. Yeah, I'd be very surprised at this point if they didn't run the parties.
So here's my my Halloween Horror Nights thing, Pete, which we'll talk about on another Universal. We're gonna do an update episode with Bart Scott here soon from Scare Zone. But This photo of Universal Studios Hollywood has been floating around the internet. That some guy illegally flew a drone, so don't do this. But he captured this image right here. I will transition to it. That is a maze currently in build progress at Universal for Halloween Horror Nights, and it's really far along, and they're actively working on it. So they are clearly preparing to do Halloween Horror Nights.
I mean, I'm happy about it. I'll be there, but
yeah, no, I'm totally happy about it. I mean, I don't know what maze that is. Maybe that's what you had said. Maybe that's the COVID-19 maze. We'll see.
Looks like it. Try to escape 2020. Good luck.
it's the 2020 maze. Yeah, Len, you weren't on this. Pete had a whole idea for a 2020 maze that just like starts with the Amazon on fire,
and then you just go try to get through 2020. That's it.
Yeah, and it ends with the Death Star, in orbit around the moon or something.
I just answered the election. That's where it ends.
Oh yeah, all right.
We're not getting.
I'm saying is the whole thing's gone to hell since we stopped running Illuminations. That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Hey, coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences.
Not at all. Speaking of, so real quick, so one of my thoughts was my gut thoughts was if any park was not going to open at Disney, like they were like, let's hold this park back for staffing reasons. My thought was Epcot, right? Of course, Epcot. Yeah. So that being the case, do you think we're getting? I can't even remember the name of the new fireworks show.
Harmonious.
Harmonious.
Are we gonna? Is that gonna? That's not happening this year, correct?
I would not think it. No.
Like just everything that was gonna open this year, it's not. Just don't.
You don't think that's mostly done though, and that this is just like fluff time? Like, all right, let's give Epcot forever a year to bring in more guests, but you don't think that's kind of ready to go? I feel like that's all pre-programming. The equipment is built. It's out there on the lagoon. The cranes are pretty much gone.
Okay, so if the show was done, it was going to start October 1st, 2020. If it was done in March, and I don't mean this in a bad way, when was the last time Disney was 6 months ahead of schedule?
Oh, no, you're
on a construction,
totally
7 months ahead
you're right.
on a construction budget.
On anything.
Yeah. So I don't think it's ready.
I just feel like stuff like that with pyro, a lot of that is now you could be done work from home, if you wanted to on that stuff. A lot of it's computer based and just timing.
The layout of the shows and all of that. Yeah, I mean, but still, there's probably a month of testing or 2 months of testing.
Oh, for sure.
I agree. They got to build stuff too, right? The barges may not have been completely done and things like that. Yeah, I think we get Epcot forever at least through the end of the year.
That would make sense. Yeah, and you guys had talked about on Disney Dish that Jim was saying the thought was that October was it 1st, 2020, that's when the 50th anniversary begins.
Yeah, and I think that's going to get pushed back a year too.
Or 2021, I mean.
By the way, the reason why we thought Harmonious would start October 2020 was we both heard, we had two different sources, extremely well placed, that told us that the day that the night of the last Illuminations, people with impeccable credentials who were like, this is going to run for a year. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to run for a year, which means like Disney, it's a 1 year celebration that lasts for 18 months. So
yeah, but I think now the 50th is going to begin October 1st, 2021.
Yeah, that's what you guys were saying. So let's do it on the actual anniversary. Yeah,
it makes sense. A lot of that construction has stopped if they're going to do 50 new things.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys hear that I don't think construction stopped on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
I haven't seen trucks there. I've driven past it at least 3 or 4 times.
I could go.
I've seen other projects like the Cove is flying by. They're getting a lot done at the Cove. The McDonald's is done. They're ready to open. I'm convinced.
Oh, I haven't seen it in about a month.
It's got workout bikes.
It is done. There's like exercise bikes outside. It's mossed.
You should watch.
Really?
So Pete just released a video on his channel. You guys should check it out. It's /Adventures by Carney. He did a full 20-minute drive around Disney property and narrated it and explored.
It's kind of an update of everything going on property, what's happening, what's not. So I don't know.
I know McDonald's is done. That's good.
It looks really good.
How's the Cove look?
The Cove looks great. I mean,
have they topped out vertically?
Yeah, they're about halfway up. That's gonna be 13 stories, I believe, and I think they were at 7 when I was there.
Okay.
13? You mean 14?
But I mean, it's not as I thought it was gonna be a lot more obstructive, and then you could see it from the road. But now that they don't even care, like when you could see the back of Galaxy's Edge as you're driving, that is way more obvious than this when you're driving up World Drive. And I think it's going to look pretty. They put a few panes of glass up, so it's like those light reflective blues, so it look like a cloud a little bit. I think it'll look nice, and the water features, and how they're going to tie it into the Swan and Dolphin. So it's not as bad or obtrusive. It looks beautiful, and I can't wait to see what that rooftop bar looks like.
Oh, I didn't know there should be a rooftop bar. Nice.
Yeah, because you'll be able to see Harmonious, and you'll be able to see Hollywood Studios fireworks.
Yeah.
And that's a Marriott property, right?
It's 3 companies.
Marriott
right?
manages it, but Starwood owns it, which is weird.
All right.
Well, and Starwood is Marriott, correct? As far as I remember, Marriott bought Starwood Resorts.
It just
like
on the
5-6 years ago.
property, it's a Tishman. It was like Tishman, someone else, and then Starwood Group, and then it said operated by Marriott.
Interesting.
How many rooms? That's small, like a couple, 300?
300 and change, I believe.
Okay. So it's not really going to like dramatically increase road traffic or anything like that. Because the Swan and Dolphin are what, 2,600?
They're gigantic. Yeah, this is
not. Okay. So this would be nothing like that. Okay.
Yet. I think this is more meeting space too, because there's a ton of meeting rooms, and half the rooms are suites. So these are, I think, a lot more suites.
This is business people.
It's like 150 suites.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Very cool. So let's move into the parks. How do you think they're going to do rides? Like, are we going to do virtual queues one by one, or are we just going to space out, stickers on the ground and like tape, like they did in Shanghai, the yellow tape on the banisters? Is that how we think we're going to do it? What are the thoughts on that?
Pete?
Sure. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much told us when they did that conference call here in Florida with reopening Florida, and we get some Disney people and some Universal people and everything else on the call. Is what they came up with, at least, is that they're going to I don't know how they're going to do this. They're going to have to bring a lot of cast members back, but wipe down the vehicles of anywhere I guess you can touch after every ride. So to me, any Omni Mover or anything like that.
How's Haunted Mansion going to work?
That's what I'm saying. It's going to go so slow, and in the line there has to be 6 feet, I think, between parties. So not per person, but you and your family. So lines are going to be extended a lot longer, and then we also don't think. I mean, this is again my opinion. And they kind of hinted at it that you won't see all the attractions reopen back up. It'll just be select few that this is feasible on, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, like take Omnivores, like Haunted Mansion or Little Mermaid. Was there a guy with a rag on a stick, just like as the trains go by, he's just like furiously trying to...
I have a feeling they're just going to slow the whole ride down and just wipe those things down.
Oof. Yeah, so I think like the one that I was thinking about was like Peter Pan's Flight. So as soon as you get off, they've got like 15 or 20 feet where somebody could hop on, spritz everything down, wipe it down really quick,
hop back out.
Just two guys, like a Jerry Lewis movie, just in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, just as much as they can. Yeah, it's basically like the guys in the car wash that are drying your car off.
Exactly like that. And on other rides, you do have more time, like with Pirates, that they have time to go behind that wall. Yeah. Haunted Mansion has time. Buzz Lightyear has time.
I guess Haunted Mansion they could do in the back end, right?
I mean, People Mover has no time. I feel like so that's probably not going to happen.
Well, but if you do every other on People Mover or something like that, like you just
every other car
if they're numbered, where it's like, okay, we're doing this round, we're doing whatever even numbers, and this round we're doing odd numbers.
That's a good point. Every other car, and then just clean every other car.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And again, if the parks are at 20% capacity, you can afford to lose half of a ride's capacity.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're saying but is that necessarily true if they don't open all the rides? Because a park's capacity is based on how many rides are running. I mean, I'm assuming that. So where do you put those people? So if you're not opening all the attractions and you're only opening 70% of attractions, is that that park's capacity now down to 70% as well?
Yeah. So in the Magic Kingdom, they're going to run Hall of Presidents, which doesn't play to full audiences.
Clean every seat.
Are you going to do Tiki Room? Are you going to do Country Bear?
I don't think they can do any of those.
So are you going to do PhilharMagic? Probably not. Or if they do, like in Shanghai, like every other row and every third or 3 seats between.
I mean, you might get away with Carousel of Progress and doing every other theater, or just taping 2 seats closed, 1 seat open. And that way where to sit people and where to clean.
Well, yeah, like Carousel of Progress, you could do the same thing with the People Mover. You could just do every other theater and then swap it, and then do the clean ones while everyone's riding the ones you just cleaned, and then swap it, vice versa. But yeah, like PhilharMagic, like how do you? That's a huge theater. How in the heck do you? Wow,
another thing. So here's another thing, just with the parks in general and how silly I think the system is. What about bag checks? So a security guy's going to change their gloves after every single bag. Once they dig into someone's bag, pull their hands out and then put their hands into another person's bag. And I mean, that's more added time to switch gloves every single time on every single bag.
Shanghai said that, and I think City Walk said that they were discouraging people from actually bringing bags. Like, don't do it.
Well, yeah, and well, the nice thing about Universal though is they have the X-ray machines, so they're not actually rummaging through.
There.
They just
you never have to touch it.
Through. Yeah, yeah. So they can do bag checks super easy at Universal.
I was thinking, is Disney going to bring in X-ray machines? That's my guess.
Be a good time to do it.
Maybe.
I mean,
but even then, I mean, you put your bag on the X-ray machine. You have to clean your bag after you pick it up from the X-ray machine because it's touched something that isn't yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have the little buckets like at the airport at Universal, so theoretically they could take the buckets.
Well, then you have to touch the bucket too. I mean,
clean.
Yeah.
Well, you take the buckets and it goes into a separate bin. Now that's the dirty buckets. They go clean them. They bring out new ones.
Okay.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean, there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not foolproof. I mean, you're going to have to touch something at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. You know, everyone just has to understand is like if you go, like you're not 100% safe. It's not like they're going to keep you safe all the time. You know, you've got to be consistently using.
There's still some
hand
risk, right?
sanitizer. Yeah, it's 100%.
And Disney actually came out with those, was it waivers or signs this week that like you are assuming your own liability. Where is it? I just read it.
The COVID disclaimer.
Yeah,
enter your own risk. Yeah,
basically. So it's on you if you're coming.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can show up, but we are not held responsible if you get sick. Yeah, that's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I'm really curious to see how this all works. And living so close, I mean, I'm like rocks throwing distance from Hollywood Studios, so you know, we'll see how this all plays out. I'd have to be really good at throwing to get a rock into Hollywood Studios. By the way,
I was gonna say, I mean, we're about equal distance, and I got a cannon.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to mess with
a
this
potato
guy.
Cannon. Pete Carney, that's what we call him.
Watch out. For Huey and Dewey, they're coming.
You don't want to know what Louis is. Okay, kids friendly, family friendly.
Oh, jeez.
So virtual queues for that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's just gonna be a bunch of attractions that are closed. Most of the shows are probably not gonna be open. Like Epcot would be living with the land and Mexico.
Also, Epcot has all their entertainment cut at the moment, and there's no festival.
Well, that's the thing is, would they? I guess they wouldn't be able to.
Who's going to Epcot?
Yeah. Well, and didn't they send home all of the all of the countries'
international program? Yeah.
So
also, are they doing food and wine still? Because how do you do concerts are a big part of that? How do you do the concert series?
Well, how do you hand people food?
Exactly.
Logistical stuff there. They'll figure it out. I think we will see food and wine.
You think?
I hope so.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh man. Okay.
I don't know how they're gonna do it, but it's already an interesting situation.
You're way more optimistic than I am. I'm just like, nope, not happening.
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, do they do half the booths?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Because if you're limiting park capacity, you're limiting the amount of revenue that you can make.
Yeah. Well, what is their break even?
Maybe you go into Epcot and it's it's 20% capacity for Epcot, and now it's a minimum five drink minimum to get in.
It's like a comedy
What
club.
I said they should just open up the World Showcase, like turn it into like another Disney Springs.
Yeah.
Open it up and just
just restaurants
and booths.
Actually, that's a really good idea. Like no ticket, just it's World Showcase is open.
Yeah, it's just like Disney Springs or.
I mean, there's like 2 rides, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, and those,
but they can even close those. It's the one in Mexico.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not in Frozen. You know, like that's it.
Come do some shopping, have a drink. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Speaking of which, actually, there was a question on YouTube. So we had mentioned like if resorts hold guests to like XYZ resorts are able to go into Magic Kingdom today, and the other resorts can't. What happens if you've booked a dining reservation?
You start.
Oh, they might let you in for that. Yeah, but
you starve. What, Pete?
You can't come in here. Hope you packed a box lunch.
Yeah, I mean they'll probably let you in for that. But
well, someone just got. I have a friend who had California Grill for June 6th, and they just got the cancellation. So it's not happening then either.
Well, that's for June. They canceled everything first 2 weeks in June. I thought, yeah. So we'll see if like middle of July, if it's like hey.
Well, we were talking about even if they just open up restaurants at certain resorts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, resorts are going to be interesting. Like, are you going to be able to like just go hang out at the resort? Probably not, right? You're going to have a reservation to get in.
You'll have to have a reservation, yeah, I would think.
Because like
how do they monitor that though?
I don't know. Like our big thing is we would go to the Poly,
Well, they'll just ask you when you're coming in if you have a reservation.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of do that now, and they still kind of let us in. But yeah, they'll just have to enforce it for sure.
Yeah. And I don't think there's, I mean, are there any resorts that you can walk to from?
Like Springs? No, I don't think so.
Like like, can you get dropped off on a public road and walk to any resort?
Yeah, I mean,
Riviera?
you can if you're at Springs, you can go over to Saratoga.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
or
the
you
Magic
could walk,
Kingdom
actually,
resorts.
if you follow that little golf course, you can go to Old Key West.
Yeah, Poly,
Yeah.
Contemporary.
If you're at Old
and
Key West, you
Redford,
can go to Port Orleans.
Once you're in a resort,
Yeah.
you can go anywhere within the resort. Yeah. So they'll have to lock that down too.
Yeah, because you could just get like we were saying before, you could just get dropped off. I mean, heck, you could go park at TTC and walk to Polynesian. You could jump a bush and go walk. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to get there for sure.
You can get dropped off on a lot of roads and just go into the parking lot too. The boardwalk, either the Swan and Dolphin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'd be curious to see how they deal with all that stuff. As a side note, Len, did you see somebody stole your sleeping at Disney idea and they pitched a tent on Discovery Island for like 4 weeks or whatever it was?
I was so jealous. And did you hear how he got caught?
No,
he stole a
I
boat?
didn't. He stole.
Like, dude. I mean, he was there for a few days, and the only reason that they caught him was he was taking a boat back and forth to Fort Wilderness
Oh God.
to pick up supplies. Like, dude,
Man, that's such a Florida man story.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So those who don't know,
I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have caught him, and now he's ruined it for everyone.
he has. Well, because so for those who don't know, Len's had this like pipe dream of like sleeping on Tom Sawyer Island overnight that he's talked about on. I mean, WDW Today 10 years ago, you were talking about this.
the amount of time that I've spent trying to figure out how I can stay on Tom Sawyer Island overnight. I mean, in fact, the last time Laurel and I were on Tom Sawyer Island in March, I actually scoped everything out. I'm like, you think they have infrared sensors in this particular area of landscaping where they would detect
hilarious.
me? Yeah.
No way. I think it'd be totally safe. I think it's possible.
Yeah, but I thought, like, could I submerge myself somehow in the rivers of America?
Yeah,
with
you just slowly
straw
one
and-
piece at a time. You bring in the scuba set and you just hide it in a specific place and then rebuild
Exactly.
it.
Not
one
even.
day.
It's super easy. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even want to say it on the air because I mean it's so good. People would do it.
Text me.
Yeah.
I'll
Well, we
put it
just
in the
gotta ask
best.
who's that guy on YouTube who's been sneaking into all the resorts? Like he posted that like Animal Kingdom, he snuck in and was inside of Expedition
Oh, he's a
Everest.
maniac. Something Swanson.
Yeah, something like that. Some guy sneaking into all the resorts.
I don't
He's been
need
doing
to
that
get
forever.
trespassed.
Yeah. He's been kicked out of the park so many times. But again, he just has these big. I mean, that's why he gets all those views. But whatever. He should not be breaking into the parks. It bothers me actually because like
Yeah, no,
I see him and I'm like,
super
don't
wrong.
break this. If I can't get my fast pass tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I fully agree. All right, so I think we've answered pretty much everything. I mean, the only other thing I'll be curious to see is which bars are open. Like at Hollywood Studios, are they going to open up, all the bars? Because that's such close capacity.
Well, that's the thing too is no bars even around Orlando have opened. Even in City Walk, when we wanted to go get a drink, and there was a 2.5 hour wait. We were like, "What if we just stand at the bar?" They said, "You can't stand at the bar." And we said, "Okay, so you have to sit inside, outside." They were like, "It's a 2.5 hour wait."
Yeah.
This was at 4 p.m. 5
Well,
p.m.
because you put a reservation in at like 4 p.m. and at like 7:30 or something, or whatever it was.
They sent me a
6:05?
text. It was
It
several
came
hours
available?
later. We had left. We were home, and it was like, "Your table is ready. Please meet to see the hostess."
Yeah, it's
I'm good.
insane.
I'm good.
Yeah.
No. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see
Bars, not sure
what bars are going to be in. Well, and I can't remember what the date was. Was it Was it the 18th? Was it today that they're going to start reopening bars in Orlando or in Florida? Like
Sure.
that's being allowed. I want to say that was like phase one of Florida governor's reopening plan was that bars and gyms
Bars is the hard
could
part.
reopen
Seating
today.
and tables is we've seen it socially distanced, and we went out for brunch yesterday, and they had tables literally with just X's across the top of them. But the bars are all closed in all these restaurants. Every restaurant I've seen or peeked into or heard about, the bars are shut down. It's just you have tables. Because how do you social distance a bar? What if you have a party of 4 sit down, and then you mark off 6 feet? The next person's only a party of 1. Then you have a party of 6. You can't. It would just be so hard to do.
Yeah, no, that would be it's insane. I mean, and we passed by Yard House the other day after Universal. We drove by Yard House and it was like, holy crap! Like the outside just looked like it was a normal day. Like the tables were clearly not separated.
We ate
as
at
much
Yard
as they
House
should
the
be.
other night. It's funny you mentioned
Did
that.
you? See, you're part of the problem, Pete. Yeah, I don't know why.
I followed all the rules. I wore a mask. I socially distanced. I just needed people.
Yeah. No, that's I'm kind of in that mode right now. That's why I started a podcast. During quarantine.
Yeah.
I says I need to talk to people. Need to talk to some people. See some faces. Cool. Well, I mean that's pretty much everything I think that I could think of to talk about for reopening. I mean, it's just logistics, right? It's just figuring out how they're going to do it and how they can be efficient with it. Like the Skyliner, they'll probably do the every other one where like every other one gets cleaned and then those are the ones you can fill and vice versa, just like the people mover we were thinking. It'll be very interesting to see what happens when all this reopens and the insanity that ensues thereafter.
What do you do for a rope drop? People crowd the rope drop. What do you do in the morning? Like these are all going to be tough ways to. You got to figure all this out.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's just you hold
you just
everybody.
Checkerboard the entire pavilion, like it's going to be massive.
Oh, I have a feeling what they might do.
A big thing of tape.
Yeah.
It's just tape everywhere.
It just stay boxes away from people.
Tons of tape.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it could be just something like if they're wherever you're corralled 6 feet away from everybody, waiting to go through security and temperature check and all that kind of stuff. If they just hold you there and they're like, the moment this line starts going through, the park is open. Like we can't hold you anywhere.
Like they just put people in corrals.
Yeah, basically, it's like the moment you're in, the park is open. They're not going to rope drop, not going to corral anybody on Main Street potentially. We'll see. We'll see what happens. A lot of interesting things going on. A lot of presidents being changed out today. I can't remember if we talked about this. That like every resort has a new president.
Yeah.
I'm happy for Josh tomorrow, my man.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, promotion.
The moment he moved from Disneyland to Disney World, I looked at him and my gut was like, I have a feling he's being groomed for CEO
good.
Sometime in the near future. Now that he's got old Chapek's job.
Old Chapek.
Old Chapek. I still think, Len, you were not here, but Pete has the best name. That event center they're erecting at in the middle of Epcot is unofficially now the Chapek Tower. That's what we're calling it.
It'll just be dessert parties. It's going to cost you $106 to go inside and see it before you even book a dessert party.
Chapek Tower, I love it.
Yeah, it's designed for nothing but extra revenue.
But yeah, we lost Kevin Meyer. I liked him a lot. Rebecca Campbell moved it back in.
TikTok, right?
Yeah, TikTok. So good for him. I mean, he's just video platforms. They should be a nice fit for him.
Yeah, well, and the new Disney World president is the ex-president of Disney Signature Experiences, which is an interesting choice to me because that's all the expensive stuff.
Rebecca.
It's what? ABD, cruises.
Yeah, Cruise Line, Alani, Adventures by Disney. I think that's it. That's all that's on their website. Is those three things. But that's all the really intimate experience stuff. So, I wonder what they're gonna do for Disney World. It'll be very interesting to find out in the near future. Well, I think that's gonna do it. Let me check and see if we have any additional questions here to end with before we sign off. Oh, so here's just a what do you think would happen if it was Paul Berry posted this on YouTube. What do you think would happen if instead of the person, I can't remember his name, what is his name, Ron, who's now president of Disneyland, Ken Patrick, if instead of Ken, if they just gave the job to Tony Baxter and said do what you want, how do you think the park would change?
It would go broke.
Yeah, they'd be building everything that never got built.
Everything would be, I mean, I'd love it. They would go broke.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they just brought back everybody, just Tony Baxter and everybody else got brought back.
Tony's young enough. He could come back.
He is young enough.
Yeah.
He could totally
Did
come
I tell you
back.
my story of watching with Tony some movies at Pixar?
No. What?
All right, we'll close with this because then I got to go.
Yeah.
Last October, a friend of mine was doing a presentation. His name's Chris. He was doing a presentation at Pixar on the history of Disney and Monsanto in the theme parks. So Chris actually works for Monsanto, got access to the Monsanto archives, and found this never-before-seen video on the making of America the Beautiful, Home of the Future, the classic sort of 60s and 70s Disneyland attractions. So Pixar, those guys are huge Disney theme park fans. So he, through a network connection, got invited. So he calls me on like a Wednesday and he says, Friday, I'm going to go to Pixar in Emeryville and do this talk. Do you want to go? It's Friday. This is a Wednesday.
Sure.
I'm like, yes. So I book from New York to Oakland round trip ticket on basically a no notice, on 1 day's notice. And I go, so we meet there and we go into Pixar, and Pete Doctor's there, and a ton of people are there. And so Chris does his presentation, and it's fantastic. A ton of people show up. He did a really great job on it. And at the end of it, the Pixar people who were hosting us said, look, well, we're going to meet for drinks tonight, and you're going to come back for Tony Baxter's thing, right?
Wow.
I'm like, what's the Tony Baxter thing? He's like, oh, well, a couple times a year, Tony Baxter shows up at Pixar.
Just shows up unannounced, just like, hey, guys.
Yeah, he brings a suitcase of DVDs. And what Tony had done was he went to the Disney archives, and he found these film canisters taken back when the parks were being built, but they're unlabeled. So he had them digitized, and the idea is you play the DVD and you figure out what's on it, and then Tony writes down what's on it, and eventually it'll end up in the Imagineering series.
Wow.
Right?
It's all actually on YouTube right now. You can actually see all this footage.
He had like 500 hours.
I know, well, it's not all there, but there's a good 4 to 6 hours of this stuff, and Tony Baxter narrating it.
Literally 500 DVDs.
Oh, that's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of this stuff.
So then they said,
that's crazy.
Go nap between now and dinner, because it'll start around 7:30, and it'll go as long as people want. Like if you wanted to go like 48 hours, and Tony was up for it, we'd go 48 hours. So it started at 7:30 with and everyone from Pixar's there. This place is super crowded. So they closed down. The Pixar's done for the day. The first video was Disneyland, Tomorrowland, 10 days before opening, and they hadn't even poured the concrete for the walkways.
Wow.
And there's this guy, shirtless, spraying mica, the mineral mica, the shiny mineral mica, spray painting it on a white wall in Tomorrowland to make it gleam in the sunlight. So he's shirtless. He's got no sunscreen on. He's not wearing a mask. There's mica flying everywhere. He's like, Tony's like, look at this scene. Everything that you see here causes cancer in California. But like amazing videos. They're like, there was apparently a Disco Mickey parade at one point, which I had never seen. He had video of it.
Is this some of the content you were talking about right here? Here, let me transition out. So this is a rip of Tony Baxter's presentation from D23 in 2011.
No.
And it's got a bunch of, there's a construction footage of them like building from, that's inside of the Opera House.
No, this was stuff that if you looked at it, your first question is, where is OSHA? Because they're walking around, like at one point they're doing a concrete pour on like the second story of a building, and they're walking around the cutouts for stacks and whatever, and they're driving these like I guess homemade concrete dump trucks, but they're small. They're like the size of a golf cart, with concrete in the front, and they're driving these things around the cutouts in the ceiling or the floor that they're pouring, and there's no barriers. There's no
flags, no cables.
No. It's like you go in and the
handrails.
Those were the times. Yep.
Yeah. So that was it. But the
every one of them is smoking, having a beer.
Well, it's like the old Navy guys used to like use the asbestos as snowballs, like in submarines. You hear that now, and you're like, geez.
Yeah. And so stuff like that. So it started at 7:30. We took a break at midnight for Dole Whip, and then at
what a day! What a day!
At, I think 5 a.m. I had a flight at 7, so I'm like I have to leave at 5 a.m. But and so it kind of broke up at 5. But yeah, we watched like 9 consecutive hours of Disney home movies that people had never seen before, and it was amazing. Anyway,
that's absolutely incredible. That sounds a bit.
And then I saw Tony 2 weeks later in World.
Nice.
Yeah, it was the lesson of Illuminations. Actually, it was kind of funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
So, he was there to see it.
I'll tell you eventually one day. I'll tell you my screening of Tomorrowland with Brad Bird at Lucasfilm, because that was a fun day.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a last minute invite, and they were like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm going." It was like that day.
That's awesome.
I want to go. Yes, now.
So we drove over. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Cool. All right. Well, that'll do it for this podcast, this week's episode. Thank you, Len, for joining. If you guys want to know more about Len, you can't because he's totally. I'm just kidding. Go to Touring Plans. That's his company. As a matter of fact, let's bring up
Touring Plans.
touringplans.com, because this Touring Plans is legitimately one of the best websites on the planet. For those who don't know, this is Touring Plans. If you're touring Walt Disney World or Disneyland, or even Universal, correct? And you want to know what rides to go on, when you should go on, just literally like hack the system. You need to get lines, the Touring Plans app, and you need to sign up for Touring Plans. It's not expensive. It's very very
cheap.
worth it. And it will save your life. Like, it will, no joke, save your life.
You could be the Disney genius in the family. Do it.
Yeah.
Or if you're really lazy, just put in like what you want to ride. You can just click what you want to ride, put in what time you go in. Hey, I like to walk a lot. I'm not a big walker.
Yeah.
And boom, bada bing, bada boom. You got a touring plan.
For Lines, for those who don't know, so Lines has a really neat optimization feature. So it's basically, you say, I want to go on these 5 rides. I have 2 fast passes at this time, and I have a reservation at XYZ. You put it all into the system, hit optimize, and it tells you what to go on, when to start walking, how long it's going to take to get there.
And my favorite part is, even when they're off, they'll tell you by how much. They'll tell you how they did the day before. I love to watch the carnage.
Yeah,
we're big on transparency. Yeah. So this was my master's thesis. This is it's what I did in graduate school. That the algorithm for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
very cool.
It's very cool. That's how smart this man is. This was just this is what I'm gonna do for college. Wait a minute, this is a company. Hang on, and flash forward, and it's
just like Mark Zuckerberg.
Incredible.
Same story.
It's exactly Len Testa. That's what we're gonna. No, it's fantastic. I mean, and only now is Disney catching up with it. This is a good idea. So with the Genie app or whatever it's called, which is not going to be anywhere near as good because they don't have the data. Well, they might have the data, but they don't have Len.
We'll see.
So, but you can check Len out. It's at Touring Plans on Instagram, at Touring Plans on Twitter, and at youtube.com/Touring Plans. Check out their videos. They're really cool. They actually pit these plans against each other, and they do a lot of stuff where they have one guy go in at park drop and another guy come in, not at park drop, and you see how they do. You see what time, this X guy got.
I like
to
when
the
they all
ride,
go
Y
at
got
once.
to
I've been there days, and they all run to different rides. It's so much fun.
It's fantastic. Those are some of my favorite.
We like
videos
to bet on different horses and see how we do.
Yeah, there's one at Epcot.
Like Ed Bryan's headed around the corner, and here comes guy. Len sneaks up the middle for the win.
It's absolutely fantastic. Pete Carney, thank you for joining me again.
Of course.
You're basically an official host of this podcast. You've been on literally every single one. And when I advertised this podcast, I labeled you as host. So there you go. I bestow upon you a host crown. It's yours.
Oh wow, I'm not prepared for this at all.
Congratulations to you. Here, wait.
I don't know who to thank first.
Do I have applause?
Thanks.
Let's see.
Most impressive.
Nope, that was Darth Vader. That's all I got. Okay. I have a sound pad here with like different sounds. I don't know which one is which though. Cool. So you guys can check out Pete's stuff at @officialcarney on Instagram and on Twitter, or /Adventures by Carney on YouTube. Check out his stuff. It's really great. Like I said, he did a 19 minutes and change drive around of Walt Disney World property from the safety of his vehicle, going around showing all the updates and what you can and cannot see.
Some fun facts, some just like smooth tunes. So it's a little bit of everything. I hit all genres.
There are some smooth tunes on that video. And you can always check our stuff out. We are at AttractionsTube on Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We post walkarounds, full ride-throughs. Most of it's in binaural 3D audio as well. Most of it's also in 4K. Very cool stuff.
Technology for one video.
Yeah, we specialize in the long form. Like our Epcot Flower and Garden video is almost 2 hours of just straight walking at 4K 60, all binaural. Literally every path we could walk on. I had the worst farmer stand in the world after shooting that video, but it was exciting. So thank you guys for joining. We'll have to have you back, Len, once everything reopens, and we'll
definitely.
We'll see
I
how.
hope to see you guys in the park.
See how we did. Yeah, and we'll see you in the park. We'll have to buy you a tequila. We'll have to go to La Cava sometime. Woo. Especially now that everybody here lives within running distance of Disney World.
Exactly.
It'd be a pretty good run, but running distance of Disney World.
Sweet sassy molassie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Man, it stole the words out of my mouth there, Pete. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you guys on the next episode. Bye, everybody.
See you, everyone.